in the majesty of the...
Hello, my fellow tarnished. I want you to see what I've got below the waist. I want to give you a full moon. Crossbow. These are a lot of fun, and they are the focus of today's video, build / general, hey, this is really neat, you should totally consider using it if you want to have a good time, and everyone wants to have a good time. This magic pelting crossbow that magically reloads itself is just the recipe for a magic experience. I mean, just listen to the sound. Is that not satisfying as all hell? This then, as I said, is the full moon crossbow. You don't have any scaling on it, which gives you a lot more freedom in terms of where you put your stats, because you don't need to pump anything to make it do more damage. It's already got a fairly high base damage, and you can pump its damage in other interesting ways, but you can have a much more safe, health, endurance, well-rounded build. But the goal here was, I really like this crossbow. Normally I'm not a big fan of the kind of bows, crossbows, range weaponry in Souls games, but I just love the design and the aesthetic of this one. And I love that it works especially with magic bolts designed for it that make little shooting stars through the air that do a lot of damage. And although it says in the description holy bolts is where it does its special thing, that's not actually true. It's a mistype. It is Meteor Bolts, and indeed on Meteor Bolts it says made in tandem with the full moon crossbow. You can get infinite Meteor Bolts from a merchant sat just down the way from the entrance to the academy, so it's not even hard to keep this thing fueled. Which means the idea of, well, having one in each hand, firing them off, revolving, reloading, keep going, as a, you know what, I'm going to be a crossbow main. Because don't get me wrong, this is a perfect weapon to pull out as like a side piece, as a little bit of utility to fire off some sleep or some frost, get a bit of range damage when you got some downtime, but I wanted to make it the star, you know, because it's really, really cool. So before we get into how I've gone about doing that, and if it's any good, how do we actually acquire this bad boy? Why did I call a bow a bad boy? You bad boy, I'm gonna stop now. It is from the Debate Parlor Site of Grace in the Academy. You've got quite some running to do. You want to head all up on the stairs, all through the shortcut, hop over the railing, or go through the shortcut, onto the roofs, and eventually you'll get to this ladder. I hate this ladder so much. But it's okay, get to the top with absolutely zero bodily harm having been done to you, and then it's time for an easy hop, skip, and a jump. I said it's time for an easy hop, skip, and a jump over to the other roof. Honestly, you need to be fairly accurate with this, and I failed it more times than I would like to count, but then it's just a simple case of following the roofs round. Eventually you'll get to a big old ladder, and at the top in a chest is your full moon crossbow. Honestly, one of the more out the way and hard to accidentally bump into items in the entire game. So, what are we actually doing with this then? Well, the chief thing here is it does a lot of magic damage. The meteor bolts are primarily magic. The base crossbow damage is half magic, and there are a lot of ways to generically increase magic damage. So we'll talk talismans first, right? We're going to put the ritual sword on, which is from the Lux Ruins. That's just a generic 10% damage buff when you're at full health, and because this is a ranged build, well, you'll tend to be at full health longer because you're staying away from the enemy. The Magic Scorpion for 12% more magic damage from the Saluvis questline. This is a shoo-in and works really well here. The other two are the standard ranged weapon pair. The 15% more damage on arrows and bolts, which is located right next to the impassable Great Bridge and Caelid. The arrows sting, you just go straight up this tower and grab it from the chest before the local residents notice you, let's say. And then Arrow's Reach, which is from the Storm Gate back in Limgrave. You can either go there the normal way, or you can creatively do what I like to do, which is horse parkour down into here and grab it from the chest, whichever works for you. That's quite nice. The big one then here is this really nicely synergistically synergizes, what a sentence, with a general int sorcery build, because because of two main things. Number one, Terra Magica, which places a zone on the ground that gives you a massive plus 35% magic damage. This, obviously, you see where I'm going here. You're at range, you've got two moon crossbows, you're in your zone of power, and you're just popping off shots miles away and killing things. And I do mean miles away. Side tangent here. The range on this thing is silly. Thanks to arrow's reach, I mean, look at this. You can hit people with full damage from essentially the maximum distance it will let you lock onto an enemy. Unlike bows, which do have some drop-off even with the arrow's reach at this distance, the crossbows just don't care. And that is so fun. Both in the open world, sniping things, and in PvP invasions, sniping players when they don't even know that you're anywhere near or even in threat range. It's really quite cool. Then, of course, where would the full moon crossbow build be without the full moon? Ranni's Dark Moon. We want that frost proc because we can add to the build-up with frost bolts for the crossbow, and then we lower the enemy's defenses by 20%, but we also lower the magic resist of them by another 10% just because of the effect of the moon sorcery. So the basic playbook here is put a Terra Magica zone down, attack the enemy, get its attention with Ranni's Dark Moon, then just start popping off Meteor Bolt shots from your full moon crossbows, weaving in sleep arrows too if you are fighting a sleep weak enemy, and then you can maybe swap to a dagger, get some crit action going on. That's really useful. Sleep arrows are sold by, and indeed the crafting recipe to make them yourself, by the same guy who sells you infinite meteor bolts. It's like they were a match made in heaven. But yeah, you essentially just turn yourself into this magic zone powered turret of moon death, and I think that's really, really fun. I'm not about to tell you that it's just, the next best thing, that it's going to shred bosses, that you're going to one-shot players, that you're about to, obliterate Elden Ring. But it is a genuinely powerful enough, and decently powerful, honestly, but more important, thematic and fun way to play the game that lets you properly be a ranged build in a way that isn't annoying because it's not hard to keep up with ammo when you can infinitely buy it for cheap from an early game, easy-to-reach merchant, and it's really, unique because you have these spinning, self-reloading, dual moon crossbows of magic, and that's just really satisfying to actually have access to. It's really nothing that you see very often, and it's really not a way I have ever played, not just Elden Ring, but a Souls game in general. I'm really enjoying having a pseudo-power stanced crossbow setup. Oh, and one big advantage to power stancing them, because your rate of firing doesn't increase generally, but obviously you can reload both, so you have access to two quick shots. A lot of enemies tend to dodge bolts, but if you bait them into the dodge with the first and then quickly follow up with the second, generally you can catch them, and it really covers a weakness of, using ranged bolts and arrows like this. I definitely, though, from this testing, would totally recommend just having one of these if you meet the stats. Because all you need to do is have Meteor Bolts, have a plus 10 full moon, meet the very low stat requirements, and whenever you have an opportunity, you can just pull it out and pop off 500 damage or so. Which, isn't insane, but it's really good utility to have for such low investment, because normally ranged builds, bows in general, require a lot more from you to actually get good results. But if you don't want to use the repeating crossbow for, status application, and just want a sidearm for quick bursts of damage, you can't really do better than the full moon crossbow here, and I really, really am a fan of it. Honestly, it's one of my favorite weapons in the game, and one that I think really stands out because nothing is like it, both in function or form, and I really wanted to share with you today my little testing and playing I have been doing with it. So let me know if you've already used this, if you already found it, or if you've been given new inspiration to go actually try it out, because I really would recommend that you do. For now, though, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss future builds, guides, tips, tricks, all of that good stuff. Consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. It does keep us going, and it does mean the moon. I was going to say world, but moon seemed thematic anyway. Okay, until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.